This is Cyber Defense Radio with your host and cybersecurity champion, Annabelle Thomas. Annabelle brings to you another globally recognized cybersecurity executive in the hot seat today.
I'm your host, Annabelle Thomas, and today I'm joined by someone who's leading the charge in reshaping how we think about data security and AI governance. Karthik Krishnan is the founder and CEO of Concentric.ai. Karthik, welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure for you to be here. Now let's kick things off with some exciting news. I know Concentric.ai just announced the acquisitions of Swift Security and Encantai. Congrats on that milestone. Can you tell us a little bit about what motivated these acquisitions and how these technologies fit into your vision for the platform?
Thank you. Concentric.ai is a 6-year-old company focused on helping enterprises with their data security governance needs. The vision for the company has always been data security governance wherever data lives and however it travels. We have a fairly comprehensive platform today that helps enterprises discover, monitor, and protect all their structured, unstructured data on premises in the cloud across their various environments. But what we realized, especially when we looked at generative AI is introducing new sets of data security risks for enterprises, everything from generative AI assistant usage, like Copilot and Gemini and ChatGPT Enterprise, to employees interacting with public Gen AI applications, to also enterprises building their own AI workloads. And as we looked at the spectrum, what became clear to us is we have to extend our platform to be able to satisfy all of an enterprise's generative AI application usage scenarios and to be able to protect them from a data risk exposure standpoint. And so that's why we went ahead and acquired Swift Security and Encantai. Swift has built a web-based DLP product that protects monitors employees as they are interacting with public generative AI applications, and also with things like their own email or cloud file sharing and so on. And so the combination of the core data security governance platform that we have built out and all of the context that we have around the data allows us to bring, in combination with Swift Security, allows us to bring context-aware DLP to the market in helping enterprises monitor and protect their environments from data leaking out to public generative AI channels. And on the Encantai side, Encantai had a very robust data security governance product built out to help enterprises protect their AI workloads. So both in terms of model training as well as if you've implemented a RAG architecture, making sure you've got context-aware governance, so you've got the appropriate set of permissions in place. So the combination of being able to cover public generative AI application monitoring through Swift Security and proprietary AI workload monitoring through Encantai gives us an end-to-end solution for everything from public generative AI to generative AI assistance to proprietary AI workloads through a single platform, which is Concentric.ai Semantic Intelligence. And so we're super excited about bringing these technologies into our fold so we can provide an end-to-end solution to govern all of these scenarios.
Right, and I love that. And I love how these two acquisitions really position Concentric as having that unified solution across your DSPM, the DLP, and even like that generative AI governance, which you mentioned and highlighted. Can you talk a little bit about how the platform now protects data at rest, data in motion, data in use, especially as we're seeing tools like ChatGPT and other enterprise AI training environments?
Yeah, so the unique insight that we had in the market was operationalizing data security was too damn hard for most enterprises. Enterprises are struggling after 2 decades of deploying DLP products and data access governance products. Enterprises were still struggling to get a basic handle on where all of their sensitive data is, much less understand where there's risk. And so if you don't, the age-old adage is if you don't know what you have, you can't monitor, much less protect your information. And the root issue was that mostly enterprises were relying on rules and regular expressions and pattern matching to understand the data, which fundamentally just causes a lot of false positives, false negatives, and often placing a tremendous amount of burden on enterprises to have to go wade through all of this stuff to get meaningful risk insights. And so 6 years ago, when we started the company, we took a completely different approach where we started building our own language models. And this is 2019 when language models wasn't really the topic du jour. But we built our own models to semantically understand data, where we can go beyond rules and regular expressions to understanding data with context, which gives you an extremely comprehensive and highly accurate data discovery engine. The act of being able to discover that data with precision has then allowed us to help them monitor and proactively understand where there may be situations of data being at risk, from things like permissioning, sharing, entitlements, access, classification, and helping remediate and reducing data risk and preventing data loss. And we do this today for structured data, unstructured data, cloud on premises. We have deployments from tens of terabytes to 30 petabytes across 13 different verticals, from financials to healthcare to manufacturing, oil and gas and high tech, where we're protecting data at the same time, not burdening their security teams to have large teams just to be able to operationalize. And so the core technology comes from those unique and comprehensive data discovery and risk insights that we have. And we've been doing that at rest. The acquisitions of Swift Security and Acante allow us to extend some of these capabilities into data in motion use cases as well, where we can bring that same level of intelligence to also being able to protect data in motion, preventing employees from, for example, uploading sensitive data to ChatGPT. Now, the issue with that sort of a scenario is there's sort of two sets of risks. One, the traditional data leakage. You obviously don't want data leaving your environment that shouldn't. But also, once these models get trained on your sensitive data, these models never forget, because they're generative AI models. Their ability to train is almost at an infinite capacity. And so there is the insidious issue that you have, which is you absolutely have to prevent these models from getting trained on your sensitive data, because then that data is completely out there in the wild. So allowing us to extend it to these kinds of scenarios allows us to extend our platform on areas and risk vectors that enterprises face today that they're concerned about.
Right. And that's the thing too. I think a lot of companies are going to benefit from that extended coverage that they now have with part of your solution. Now, one of the standout features that caught my eye was the ability to detect the shadow Gen I. With Swift's security capabilities now integrated in the platform, how are you helping organizations discover and manage those unauthorized or risky use of public AI's tools? Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've seen?
Yeah, so enterprises today are terrified about two things, right? One is how are my employees interacting with public Gen AI applications? Are they putting my sensitive information out there, or are they submitting, pieces of my source code and potentially looking for these code editors to essentially be able to enhance and return code back? And secondly, if I'm using these tools to essentially write some of my code, do I have any sort of intellectual property concerns on the other end as that code gets checked into my environment? So that a whole, and not to mention, are they taking some of my sensitive data? For example, if you're an insurance company, you probably have actuarial data. The last thing you need is for your employees to take your actuarial data and upload it to ChatGPT, because that is extremely sensitive information. Could be true, for example, for intellectual property or source code associated with tech companies. So the issues are that enterprises want to be able to monitor these channels to make sure that some of their sensitive data doesn't leak through these channels for the reasons I mentioned, which is one, just traditional data leakage concerns, but also model training concerns. That if these models start getting trained on your data, that's a huge issue. And so now, for the first time, through the through Swift Security, we have the ability to monitor these channels, monitor it. We can report on violations. We can make dynamic, real-time, allow block decisions as employees are interacting with these applications. And as we do that, we're bringing the context that we have in Concentric AI to bear. So, for example, all of the context that we have on, okay, is this intellectual property? Is this financial data? Is this business confidential data? That can be leveraged by Swift to essentially be able to do context-aware DLP in the industry for the first time. And so this gives an enterprise comprehensive capabilities to be able to monitor these channels and, more importantly, prevent risky data from leaking out.
Right. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the foundation, the semantic intelligence engine. This has always been a key differentiator for Concentric. Can you share how this context-aware approach improves the classification and data discovery process compared to the traditional methods that are out there?
Yeah, traditional methods have often relied on rules and patterns, which often mean that the enterprises have to go in and write a lot of these rules themselves. Like, this is the sensitive data that I'm looking for, and it often puts the security teams in a bit of a chicken and egg, where they have to have an a priori understanding of what it is they're looking for. And most teams will tell you, I don't know what I have. Like, I need tools to help me understand what sensitive data I have. And so it becomes a bit of a chicken and egg. And rule writing is fundamentally inefficient, which means you're going to get a lot of false positives. And so the act of finding one instance of sensitive data somewhere, you're going to find 10 to 20 other instances of false positives that you have to wade through to get to the real data that may be of interest. And so or if you've used any sort of prior ML models, you probably have to provide good and bad data sets. And so it just puts a lot of burden on teams to essentially be able to identify their data. With deep learning and transformer models and language models, one of the benefits is point and click this at your repositories. Let Concentric AI semantic intelligence scan these repositories for you, and we'll come back and tell you like exactly where all of your financial data, business confidential data, intellectual property data, and PII, PCI, PHI data is, with extremely high degree of accuracy. And so that takes a tremendous amount of burden off of these security teams, because with the click of a button, they're getting an inventory of all of their sensitive data. But it doesn't stop there, right? You can use that, for example, to drive data classification, where you can classify the sensitive data classes and data categories of interest with the click of a button. And that is something that many of our customers have taken advantage of, where they would have had 2, 3 failed data classification initiatives in the past. They're able to successfully operationalize this at petabyte scale without requiring a large team and without a ton of effort upfront. And you can not only classify it, but you can also find your data at risk from inappropriate permissioning or entitlements or data sitting in locations that you least expect to find it. And all of these things allow you to get a risk-oriented view that you can then essentially use to essentially be able to identify those things, investigate them, and remediate them as well. So we have found in real world experience, like we have remediated data records that have been at risk of loss, either through classification or permissions management or through data migration, for less than a cent per record. And if you compare that to what happens in the event of a data breach, where customers often have to spend anywhere from $50 to $150 per record just to be able to investigate and clean up, the ROI becomes extremely apparent.
Right. And that's an important thing for everyone out there to note, is that key differentiator. Now, I know we're in a moment where AI regulation and governance are becoming, or are, hot button issues. How is Concentric positioning itself to help enterprises stay compliant, stay responsible in the way that they adopt and secure these generative AI tools?
Yeah, so the first thing with AI governance is data, right? You have to make sure that you're training we come at it from a data security perspective. We're not looking to cure all ills of AI governance, but from a data standpoint, whether it is data that these models are using for training, or the information that gets disseminated back to end users, and as they are leveraging these tools for their daily productivity needs, we have to make sure that we're governing that in place. And so the first thing it starts with is model training. So we help enterprises curate their data to make sure that these models are not training on sensitive data, that there's a fair amount of rigor placed into it on the front end in terms of what these models are training on. And on the back end, as these models are disseminating information, could be ChatGPT Enterprise, could be Copilot, could be your own proprietary models. You have to have governance in place to make sure that you're putting guardrails around the data that you want to keep outside of the purview of these solutions. Or if it is presenting this data back to your end users, you're mimicking a bit of a human reasoning system where if the CEO would ask a question, you're providing a certain level of context that is very different from what, for example, you would respond to if a junior employee were to ask the same question. And so you have to have that sort of a human reasoning system built in. And a big part of that is data governance. And so that's where we come in, where we help for the responsible use of these things while making sure that your data is not spilling and leaking everywhere.
Great. Now, Karthik, this has been a really insightful conversation. Before we close out, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, if you would like to learn more about how if Concentric AI can help with your data security needs across your at-rest, in motion, as well as your generative AI deployments, www.concentric.ai. And my name is Karthik Krishnan. Feel free to reach out to me, or feel free to contact us through our website, and we'd be happy to learn more about your needs and see if we can be of help.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Concentric AI isn't just responding to market shifts, they're actively shaping the future of data security and responsible AI use. You can learn more at Concentric.ai. Karthik, thank you so much for joining me in the hot seat today. And to our listeners, stay curious, stay secure.
You've been listening to Cyber Defense Radio. Stay tuned next time for another amazing and informative episode. CyberDefenseRadio.com is proudly part of the Cyber Defense Media Group, where InfoSec knowledge is power.
Cyber Defense TV and Cyber Defense Radio have launched 24/7/365 live streams. Visit them online today at Cyber Defense TV and Cyber Defense Radio with your host and cybersecurity champion and my good friend, Annabelle.